I'm sure some people have asked you about dinosaurs.
Yeah, we believe it or not, we get the dinosaur question quite a bit. Yeah.
How come? Why? How,
So,
how are people?
so the oldest DNA that we work with is about 1.5, 1.6 million years old. It's from a steppe mammoth, right? Which, by the way, some people in the mammoth world argue that steppe mammoths were woolly mammoths and all this other stuff. But that's another taxonomy fight for people that want to have that fight. But the DNA, I don't like to say the word impossible. I think it's highly unlikely we will ever find dino DNA because dinosaurs died off, 65 million years ago. People say, but what about amber? Amber is hot. It was in hot, wet places. That's actually a terrible DNA store. It's also very porous, so a lot of microbes went in there. So I don't think we will ever find true dino DNA, regardless of like some clickbait article you'll see on Instagram occasionally, right? And I fall for those too. I click on them every single time. But because it's about 65 million years old, and so I don't think we'll ever find dino DNA. So I don't think that we can bring back a dinosaur. Even though, and so that either makes some people very happy and some people on Reddit very mad.
No, but I feel like the fundamental question here is how far can you go? Because I feel like, okay, sure, the odds are you'll never find dino DNA unless there's some jackpot lottery, some gold rush somewhere, you find something.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's a gamut of other species that you could still go back with. And so I'm just trying to understand how far does this go?
So DNA starts to degrade pretty quickly. And so, obviously the more recent DNA that's better well preserved, the better it is. Most of the DNA we're working on the mammoth is tens of thousands of years old, 30,000 years old, 50,000 years old. I think that right now 1.5, 1.6 is about as far as it goes. It's unclear, and those are small fragments. So could you have something that's better preserved? I think that the early Pleistocene era is probably as far back as you'll...
Which is dated for me. That's like 1.2?
Yeah.
1 to 2 million?
1 to 2 million
years
old,
ago. Right,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I think that's about as I... So I think that anything in that... There's a lot of cool stuff then, just to be clear. There's woolly rhinos, there's giant ground sloths, there's this thing called the glyptodon, which is like, think of an armadillo that's the size of a Volkswagen Beetle.
I've seen it.
There's a giant beaver.
Yeah.
There was like a 6-foot beaver, which is either like the dumbest thing or the scariest thing ever. Unclear. So there was a lot of cool stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and so I don't know when the Titan... This, I doubt there's DNA for, because I think this is probably like, I don't know, I'd have to look. So I want to say it's like more, I think it's more like 5 or 6 million years ago. There's a Titan boa, which we would never do, even if there was DNA. It was like a giant, like a super anaconda.
Right.
But it was in like but I think that was like 5 or 6 million years ago.
Very interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Anaconda is a lot scarier as a movie series than Jurassic Park is for some reason.
No, absolutely.
Right.
Like that and Snakes on a Plane, I'm out.
Yeah. But the reason I was asking this question is only trying to understand, I feel like you see into the future in a very unique way. You people here at the office, your co-founders and so on. And so I'm just trying to wonder, what is something insane today that you believe will happen soon enough and people are just going to be in shock?
So let me answer that question in 3 ways. Number one, I think something that will shock people is I think that there will be a time where we will walk into a lab and there will be every endangered, like it'll be almost like Noah's Ark of endangered species growing in extinct species, all growing in artificial wombs. And so I think I don't think that's far.
How far?
I think that's
2 years?
No, I think it's like a decade.
Oh, decade, okay.
Yeah,
but still not far whatsoever, dude.
A decade seems like, trust me, on this working on this timeline in the work we're doing, decade seems like tomorrow to me. And so I think that's one thing. Another thing that I think we'll see is I think there's a bunch of animals that people don't even know. Like one of my favorite animals, which we have to have the artificial womb in order to do, that we cannot currently do, is a Steller sea cow. It's a manatee or dugong that's the size of a whale. It's just a massive, but it's like super docile. Like everyone in the world would love that animal. Like it's hard to hate that animal.
It's like dolphins.
Yeah, it's like a super manatee that's like just this giant, fat, slow swimming thing, right? We killed it off in like 30 or 50 years once we as humans, not colossal, once we found it, right? So it's like, it's awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
We definitely need a screen for this one.
Yeah. It's cool. It's super, super cool, right? And I think that it's an awesome one that I think would be pretty cool to do. So I think a bunch of those animals will come back that I think will surprise people. And then, a third thing is I think that synthetic biology and AI and eventually things like quantum all will come together, and who knows what we'll be able to create. Like George and I have this weird vision, which is like, what if we could start a plant company and engineer like a tree to grow into a tree? Like, could you engineer the tree to grow in a way where it's like a tree house where you've got things like built-in bioluminescence for like fungi for the lighting, and could you build a structure that you could like live in? Like, could we get like not? And maybe this was us just going too crazy, but talking about like living with nature, could we use technology to integrate more with nature? Like, it's a little bit weird.
Yeah,
and
no, I figure.
hippie-ish,
So like a tree
but-
that automatically becomes a house that you can live in.
Yeah.
You're basically building Avatar at that point.
Yeah.
Right.
Could you do that? I think you could. So I mean,
That's-
eventually, not
yeah,
not
no, I
today.
get it.
But I think that we as humanity will have that tech stack. Like, how do you get to the CAD software of life over time, and how do you do stuff in a way that we can work more in concert with nature versus like
Against it.
Against it.
Right. You could have trees that only scale vertically high enough to do all the photosynthesis they
Yeah.
need. So you don't need forests effectively. You just need skyscraper
Yeah,
trees.
skyscraper trees. You could do, and then even think about like how you could, you've got all these incredible natural barriers which have, I think, also driven historical worldwide conflict over time, like things like rivers and valleys and whatnot. What if you had trees that were like the size of, or the size of redwoods or bigger, but they were like the strength of them was like titanium level. You could have, a wall of forest between some of these countries that have conflict, and then, there's no way people are going to march tanks in there, right? And so I think,
crazy,
So I think there's all kinds of like weird
That's crazy.
applications to this. Like,
Yeah.
like could you build sentinel plants that respond, to different environmental pressures or chemical signatures? And so I think there's all these things that synthetic biology in this category. If you take away de-extinction and you take away the species preservation components, I think this kind of horizontal tech stack is going to be pretty helpful to solving some really hard challenges.
I feel like de-extinction at that point is only sort of the merch. It's the, you know what I mean? Like, it's the bait, because what is inside is just so much larger.
It's so much larger, and people don't fully get that, but that's okay. Like, but even if they just get to the tip of the iceberg and they're like, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to really influential people or investors or politicians or media where they're like, my kid told me about this. They literally so what's crazy is of all of our media impressions, all of our press, all the great podcasts and stuff we do like this, they're not we're not targeting, we're not doing the kids programming type shows. We're not on Blue's Clues or whatever the latest thing is. Yeah, and so our messaging is more kind of like that, MTV kind of general purpose audience, right? And so what's interesting about it is even with that, so much of the messaging I think gets into teachers and schools and classrooms where it comes ground up from the kids. There's so many people are like, my kid. I was literally just at a conference last weekend where like 3 or 4 people were like, my kid told me about this, which is interesting because that's our hope, right? That we want to inspire the next generation, but we're not actively we haven't launched. We've talked about launching something like Colossal Kids or something like that at some point, but we've not ever launched anything that's kid directed yet, from an educational or content programming perspective. Yet that seems to be just happening organically.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I was actually, so this is a true story. I don't know if I've ever told this. I was actually in the Maldives, and I was sitting there, and I was sitting there with my wife, and we're in the Maldives. The Maldives, and I was on a very small island of the Maldives, and with only I forgot how many rooms, but not a ton of rooms. And there was a family sitting behind me at breakfast, and there was a weird sound in the trees, and the mom goes, "That's a dodo," and the kid correctly was like, "That's not a dodo. Dodos are extinct." And the mom's like, "No, I'm pretty sure that's a dodo." She started arguing with the kid. She's like, "No, mom. That's a dodo." And they're going back and forth. This was about 3 years ago. And but after we announced the Dodo Project. And she goes, "No, that's a dodo." She's like, "No, mom, dodos are extinct." And she's like, No, they're not. And she was she was incorrect. And she was arguing with her child, but very playfully, but arguing with her child. And this kid said, "They're extinct, but there's actually a company that's working to bring back the dodo." This is a kid. And I mean, we're talking about a very small island in the Maldives.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I was like,
That's crazy.
That was like a shock moment for me, right?
That's crazy.
So I turned around and I said, your son's right. Dodos are extinct. I work at the company. That's we're going to bring back the dodo. And you would have thought, I was wearing a Colossal t-shirt. I was not wearing a dodo shirt, but I was wearing a Mammoth shirt. And you would have thought that I was like the cool, like the kid knew all about Colossal, right? The kid knew what, like, he knew who I did and what I did, but he knew the company Colossal. And my shirt said Colossal. I was like, and he was like, it was crazy because it was like this awesome moment.
Wow.
And so what's interesting is like we've definitely sparked this
The right
like,
curiosity.
The right curiosity. And I think right now we need that more than ever, right? It's like
100%.
we need moonshot thinking. You know, look, we're not going to do everything right. We're going to try our best.
Right.
But like ultimately, you know, I think we need this, like we need to be doing bigger, awesome stuff for humanity. And, you know, if bringing back a mammoth inspires, you know, 20 kids that go and end up curing cancer, I don't think that we at Colossal today or in our future success, hopefully, can quantify the halo effect of our work.
Yeah, the delta is huge. We have barely scratched the surface with this clip. If you want to know all the fun stuff that happened in this conversation, you've got to go to our main channel. Click now.